Good evening, everybody. This is Casper from the Tropical Weather Threat Society bringing you our nightly update for the tropical basin here, all tropical basins, and specifically, we're going to highlight and focus on Hurricane Erin, plus a new area regarding the outlook from the National Hurricane Center here in the Atlantic Basin that is now been increased to 30% chance of development over the next 7 days. As we could see here, it's not an area of invest or anything else. But one thing that I would like to stress to folks is please, please, please don't look at deterministic or operational runs of models right now. Like if you see people sharing the operational run of the GFS or the Icon or anything like that, this storm hasn't even developed. And let me give you a better view. If you look at this, this is an absolute conglomerate mess of shower and thunderstorm activity. There is nothing really substantial out there, and we'll just pull up Earth Null to show you that there's nothing but this little area of spin. This is what is highlighted, but also keep in mind that it's buried within the monsoon trough as well. So, well, the intertropical convergence zone at this point because they're going in opposite directions. But as we see, this little area of spin is what's forecast to come out this way, and then with the potential of development, and that's a wrong box, but the potential for development in this area here. Now, there is some signal on the ensembles. We've been talking about this for a few days now that we'll have to watch. But Erin, with a lot of the models of what we see, are playing a significant role in the potential track of this. But it is way too early to make any kind of determinations as to what this little area of spin could become later on down the road, though it is that time of year. So, looking at Hurricane Erin this afternoon and this evening, it's still undergoing an eye wall replacement cycle. It takes a little bit of time, is what it looks like. The pressures have come up. They've stabilized, but they've come up. The overall eye of the storm itself is getting bigger, and the overall size of the storm itself is also getting bigger. She's still quite formidable, no question about that, as we could see with the satellite imagery. Still quite strong. We do have tropical storm warnings for the Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas now, and we're still kind of waiting on that significant north turn. And that's the question in everybody's mind, that and on top of the new area of interest out there. So, Erin is currently located at 21.7 north, 68.5 degrees west, 275 miles northwest of San Juan, Puerto Rico, 165 miles east of Grand Turk Island. Currently with 125-mile-an-hour maximum sustained winds, moving west-northwest at 13 miles an hour or 295 degrees. So it's slowly making that turn. That number is continuing to increase. And the minimum central pressure is 946 millibars. We have tropical storm warnings in effect for the Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas. Interest elsewhere in the central Bahamas, North Carolina, Outer Banks, and Bermuda should monitor the progress of Erin. I would not be surprised if we see tropical storm watches issued for extreme eastern North Carolina, and I'm going to show you why. The overall wind field of this is going to expand to ridiculous sizes, and I've brought up a couple different graphics here tonight to highlight what I mean by how wide this wind field is going to get. So, our hazards affecting land, we're still looking at rainfall across. I know it has ended over Puerto Rico, at least the heavy rainfall of what they were looking at yesterday. I do know at one point there was over 200,000 people out of power, and I did not pull up the power outage information. Let's see. Mandatory for Hatteras Island has been posted. James, if you would, or Jonathan, if you would, give me a power outage number for Puerto Rico. And mandatory evacuation for Hatteras Island. Yeah, I haven't heard anything about that. But yeah, if somebody could double check what Martha's got right there, I would appreciate that because I haven't heard anything. Although there is going to be some extreme rough seas and waters out there, so I mean, maybe for tourists and stuff, possibly, but I really haven't heard anything, Martha. I will have to be honest there. Um, So we're also still looking at the rainfall amounts there. I will show a graphic regarding that. Obviously, the wind with the tropical storm warnings currently in effect, we are expecting tropical storm force winds for the Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas. The surf, this is going to get insane. And storm surge, minor coastal flooding is possible in areas of onshore winds in the Turks and Caicos Island and the southeast Bahamas. Near the coast, the surge will be accompanied by large waves. So the counterclockwise rotation, as it is on approach, some of those islands will see those onshore winds coming in from the north or the northwest, depending on the beach's orientation. And at that point, we could see some minor coastal flooding, and potentially with a little bit of wind-driven water up onto the shoreline because this storm is getting very big. It is forecast to get quite large. Now, what we have here is the experimental cone, and we're going to zoom in. And the reason that I want to show this is the wind field here. This wind field currently is forecast to get absolutely immense as it continues to pull further and further to the north. It really begins to expand right about as it passes by North Carolina, and it starts to make that turn to the northeast. Like in this area here is really where this wind field is forecast to really, really expand into something just absolutely insane. I'll show you the numbers here in a moment. But the question is that with the cone of uncertainty that we have and the size of the wind field, if this continues to stay to the left of track, this overall wind field could, in theory, scrape in on the eastern portions of North Carolina. Now, how far? We're not 100% sure. Could it get, kind of reach in that way with the very edge of that? I would imagine to see potentially some squally weather, but then it is also being picked up into the trough and moving off to the northeast. As you could see, it is already starting to get that little bit of an easterly component before it arrives to being like straight offshore. If it were to run, a due north track, then obviously we would have much bigger problems. But what it's looking like right now is that just because of the wind field itself, we may we may see tropical storm watches issued just if it gets too close with this wind field, because the wind field, like I said, it is forecast to get much larger, much larger. So, real quick, we're going to take a look at the discussion, and I'm going to go through this kind of early. Then we're going to go through a lot of the graphics that I've got here for the key messages, and especially the rip currents. My big concern for the east coast of the United States will be wave action and increased surf. It is going to have this one's going to be pretty wild. Um, the evacuation came out from Dare County. 155,000 most recent. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. Does Erin still have a face? No. But I mean, like it rotates around, so you'll always see it in the infrared image. So when it rotates around like that, and it's really all depending upon what website you're using and how it smooths everything out. Sometimes you can get them on Tropical Tidbits. Weather Nerds was another real good one to use because it allows you to go back through frame by frame and be able to pull some of those off if you wanted to do that there, Sammy. Dare County. Let me see. They're listening to us. Okay. There is, due to impacts, state of emergency. Yes. They have. No, I do not want to sign up. They have. You are correct, Martha. Thank you very, very much. So, at 6 p.m., the state of emergency for all areas. Hatteras Island Zone A, including unincorporated villages of Roden. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll just highlight it. Waves, Salvo, Avon, Buxton, Frisco, and Hatteras. We have the visitors evacuation beginning at 10 a.m. on Monday, and then resident evacuation there beginning at 8 a.m. on Tuesday. And it's because of the wave heights. And yeah, I was going to show that. It's going to be absolutely crazy, crazy. The surfers are going to be out there. Swimming prohibition, yeah. Stay out of the water. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Martha. And what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we are going what'd I do? I just want to make the post. There it goes. I just want to post that in there. There is, and we will pin that. There is the link to this, what I've got up on the screen for the emergency management center there. Yeah, that's no good. That's no good. So let's get back to the forecast so we can show what some of that wave data is looking like here tonight. So paragraph number 1 this deals with the intensity value. We're waiting on the hurricane hunters to get there. It just took off here, just a little bit ago. It won't be there yet, but I doubt we'll get any core information before the end of the live, but we'll see. Um, and this one kind of gives a little bit of insight on the forecast track. So I'm going to go ahead and read paragraph 2 here. The system has been moving just a little to the right of track seen earlier today, and the initial motion estimate is 295 degrees at 11 knots. There are no significant changes to the track forecast reasoning from the previous advisory. Erin is expected to gradually turn northward in a couple days while moving through a weakness in the subtropical ridge between two subtropical high cells. The new track guidance is basically unchanged from earlier today, so the new official forecast is essentially an update from the previous one. This remains close to the dynamical model consensus TVCN and is also similar to the latest FSU Super Ensemble guidance. Erin exhibited an eye wall replacement cycle earlier today with the eye diameter decreasing from 5 to 10 nautical miles to around, or increasing from 5 to 10 nautical miles to around 40 nautical miles. If the replacement cycle completes, there should be a contraction of the eye wall by tonight. This would likely result in another intensification episode. The official forecast is consistent with this expectation and is near the high side of the model guidance. Notwithstanding, Erin should remain in conducive environmental conditions and remain a dangerous major hurricane through the middle of this week. And this is where it gets serious. Erin has been growing in size, and that trend is likely to continue over the next few days. The expanding wind field will result in rough ocean conditions over much of the western Atlantic. It should be noted that the 34 and 50 knot wind speed probabilities beyond 36 hours in the text and graphical products are likely underestimating the risks of those winds occurring. This is because the forecast wind field of Erin is considerably larger than average compared to the wind field used to derive the wind speed probability product. So, paragraph 4 just kind of highlights, in a way, really what we're talking about as to how large the wind field of this is going to get. And as we could see with our forecast, through 120 hours, we are still expecting this to have 100 miles an hour and remain a major hurricane through the next 72 hours. So the size of the storm is going to get ridiculous. Now, here's our rip current forecast for today. And as you could see along the East Coast, where we have some moderate risks. But look what happens tomorrow. Now we're starting to get the high risks in for the East Coast of the United States. Please, 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 folks, if you plan on going to the beach this upcoming week, make sure you check with the local officials to see the safety and whether swimming in the ocean is permitted, because this thing is going to light up as we get further and further into the upcoming week. This whole thing is going to go red before it's all said and done with. Now, I do want to open this up, and the projected rainfall, as you could see, we are looking for some 2 to 4 inches again over portions of Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and the Turks and Caicos and the southeastern Bahamas. This is obviously subjected to seeing a rain band kind of stall out over the top of the island and cause considerable flash flood warnings along Puerto Rico last night that I know of. So flash flood warnings are or flash flooding is definitely a possibility. Let me see here. Let's see. So let's see. James, yeah, I mean, it really all depends upon it really, really depends upon how far the model goes out. And like James said, if it's really over 7 days, and honestly, if it hasn't even developed yet, you're wasting your time. That's why we have ensembles, and that's why those are coming here later on. So, our key messages: bands of heavy rainfall will continue across portions of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands through tonight, but are expected to diminish by Monday. Locally considerable flash and urban flooding, along with landslides or mudslides, are possible. Number two, tropical storm conditions are expected in the Turks and Caicos Islands and in the southeast Bahamas tonight and Monday. Let me scroll this down. Number three, Erin is expected to produce life threatening surf and rip currents along the beaches of the Bahamas, much of the east coast of the U.S., Bermuda, and Atlantic Canada during the next several days. Number four, interest along the outer banks of North Carolina and Bermuda should monitor the progress of Erin, as there is a risk of strong winds associated with the outer rain bands during the middle part of the week. The earliest reasonable arrival time of winds. Now, as we could see, for the folks here in the Bahamas and the warned areas, we could see those tropical storm force winds. Sometime on Monday as the earliest, but by Tuesday that should be relegated to just the northern portions of the islands there, where we would have the most likely arrival time. But as we could see, some of the Bahamas could get scraped by this wind field. As this turns to the north, the wind field itself is also going to continue to expand. And it's going to be kind of a hit or miss game as to whether or not things get scraped. And as you can see here, even with the outer banks of North Carolina right now, there is the possibility of just a little bit of, potentially scraping, and then Bermuda as well. We could see tropical storm watches issued for both Bermuda and North Carolina, theoretically, for the same system at the same time as it passes between both of them, because of the fact that the storm itself is forecast to be so unbelievably large. So, if we look now, remember, keep in mind that the National Hurricane Center said the text and the graphical products out past 36 hours, as far as the wind speeds are concerned, may not show the true values. So anything past 36 hours, where we've got with Bermuda and for the eastern portions of North Carolina here, those values are not to be looked at in an absolute forecast literal term, but knowing that there is the potential risk for these percentages to be off in a way that are not necessarily reflected at this time. So it leaves some uncertainty until we get closer and closer to the event. That being said, the wind field itself is forecast to get absolutely crazy. So I want to show everybody here. This is the forecast advisory for Hurricane Erin. What this does is kind of gives us the idea of the overall size of the wind field itself. Right now, the tropical storm force winds extend out 180 nautical miles to the northeast, 140 to the southeast, 90 to the southwest, and 150 to the northwest. Now, let me give you a, using cyclonic WX here, that is what that graphic represents. All right, so just to kind of give you a visual of what this number is, what all of these numbers within this forecast right here is represented within this particular graphic, being the tropical storm force winds are in the green, the 50 knot winds or 58 miles an hour are in the yellow, and then the hurricane force winds and above are located there in the red. So as I'm going forward, this kind of gives you a little bit of a visual that you can, kind of compare with the numbers that I'm about ready to read to you. So as we continue to go forward, right now, this is, it's a normal size for a hurricane. All right, it's starting to get a little bit larger, but when we get to the point of about 72 hours into the future, to where we have our tropical storm force winds at 180, 140, 90, and 150 in their respective quadrants. By the time that we get to the 72 hour, we're looking at 210, 220, 180, and 170. And that's northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest. And the wind field is continuing to grow. The hurricane force winds are 80 miles on the eastern side and 60 miles out on the western side. Now, we're not expecting the center of circulation to get within 60 miles of the coast. But if we look at where the forecast is valid for in 72 hours, we are at 31.2 north and 72.7 west. So it is just then starting to maybe get a little bit of an easterly component compared to the previous day or the previous 12 hours. So this is kind of what we're looking at as to when the storm itself is forecast to start to make that eastward turn, because of the fact that it has gotten out a little bit too far to the west for comfort, being here at 73 degrees west. Now, when we take this out and as it gets up about even with North Carolina, with the center of circulation here at 35.3 north and 69.3 west is what the forecast is calling for here on day 5. And it could average between error of 125 nautical miles and maybe 175 up to day 5. But the overall wind field itself explodes in overall size, because we're looking at the tropical storm force winds at this point extending well over 400 miles out from the center. And then, 200 miles in one direction, 200 miles in another direction plus. When we get into day 5, it grows to over 500 miles in diameter. So this is going to blow up into a massive system. Shipping interest, the wave action, it's crazy, because what I have here is the marine graphical forecast from the National Hurricane Center, and I want to show you all the wave heights. Now, obviously, this does not go all the way further to the north, because this is for the tropical North Atlantic. But if I run this forward, I've got some of the numbers there in the wave heights. Look what happens to the southeastern coast we're talking about potentially 22-foot waves up here, Myrtle Beach. And the waves that we have here, they're potentially off the chart because we get into such a deep blue that we don't have any, honestly. We're talking about some very serious waves. I hope we don't have 48-foot waves, but it wouldn't be surprising. I can pull that up for the European model. Does run a significant wave height, but this is directly from the National Hurricane Center. Now, if I were to turn on our wind at the 10-meter mark, what we're looking for is some of the gusty winds that our tropical depression winds are going to be located in our red here, this outer red, and then getting into our tropical storm force winds is in the purple. So when we get it up towards North Carolina here, it's going to be breezy, but do we get into the tropical storm force winds itself? That remains to be seen. And we're going to have to really, really wait on a little bit more clarity as far as what is going on. But in the good news, as far as what we have, we've got our low level reconnaissance for our hurricane mission, but that's not alone because I know that mission 14 is currently ongoing and we have an upper level dropson mission that is dropping all types of dropsons all throughout the storm, in and around the storm, to try to get a little bit more information to put in within the models, so this way we may be able to get a better solution from the models as to when is the turn to the north, how is the atmosphere going to be reacting to all of this as it goes forward. And we'll see. They've currently dropped 28, 29 dropsons. So as they continue to go forward with their mission, are they going to fly back to the United States? Are they going to come up further over the top of these and drop more dropsons here to the north and to the west? We'll have to wait and see. But that is currently ongoing, and a lot of information will come from these because, as you could see here, these dropsons go all the way up to the 200 millibar level. So there is an entire air column. These are almost like dropping a weather, or like launching a weather balloon, but dropping it from the top to the bottom. So a lot of information will be acquired with this, and it will all be fed into the models to help increase efficiency as we go forward. The 0Z models will initialize at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which would be about an hour and a half from this recording, or from right now. So once we get in about another hour and a half, whatever information that this has acquired, that will go into the 0Z models. So this is why we're hopeful that we get 5, 6, 7 more dropsons, especially off west of 70 and kind of north here, west of 70 and north of 22, 24, maybe getting into the 25, 26 range. What's going on up there as far as the atmospheric conditions are concerned, and do we see the weakness and everything really starting to has it materialized a little bit further? Okay, let me see. Yep, Kristen, she's not here. Yeah, no, Sammy. I mean, folks just they're looking for attention. That's all they want. And you notice how they're posting models, but they're all deterministic runs or fear mongering or everything like that. But those areas that are posting those models, as far as it all turning left, you'll never see them post something like the spaghetti plots. And as we can see here, they're all pretty well in good, tight agreement. As you can remember, we had a decent amount of spread. They all agree on this northern turn, but it's just where is the center going to go? And as you can see, even if the center goes right through the center, right between, directly between North Carolina and Bermuda, the overall wind field itself is going to be expanding dramatically. And we could still see tropical storm watches issued. So looking at the real-time products on it, SatCon still got it at 113 knots. ADT, this would be 115 miles an hour. That'd be 120. This would be still keeping it maybe getting it back up towards Category 4 status at that point. We are definitely not going to see another eye wall replacement cycle take place. Here's our precipitable water, so regardless, a ton of moisture is going to be coming up and drawing with it. And you can also see the precipitable water that is beginning to congeal and consolidate itself down here into portions of the tropical Atlantic associated with our area of interest from the National Hurricane Center. And I want to show this because this shows a very good highlight of the eye wall replacement cycle itself. As you could start to see, well, I need to go, hold on. We need the 24-hour. So, as we run this, that was the 24-hour, wasn't it? Maybe we'll get a little bit more. But you could see the outer wall of the storm itself. The outer eye wall beginning to develop. That's got to update here shortly. But when it does, it'll kind of show the full, complete cycle of the storm itself and how that inner eye wall is replaced by the much larger outer eye wall, and then it has to complete its formation. And as we could see, no real chance of rapid intensification, although now the basin intensity still is at 144. We could theoretically pull 30 knots, but it would tap it right back out to the basin maximum, similar to what it did when it ran up to the Category 5 status earlier on yesterday. Real quick, we're going to run our deterministic look and just for our trends. And as you can see, the GFS has been in the first 24 to 48 hours, maybe trending a little bit to the left, but then trending a little bit to the south on its after 72. Everything is pretty much in a good agreement right here, and then some off-track variance as it's on its kind of next chapter, because you've really got a storm of two different stories here, because you've got the hurricane itself coming up, and then what it's going to transition to as it gets caught up into the westerlies and starts to combine with the upper level low way off to the north up here, and what that is going to do to the northern Atlantic. There's definitely going to be some shipping issues. For those that were saying, that about the euro and how it kept drifting to the west, well, as you could see, it's kind of on time with one another now. It really hasn't done much shifting over the last couple runs. So that is encouraging news that the models are beginning to lock in on one particular solution over and over again. The UK Met has been drifting quite a bit to the west, kind of catching up with the track of the storm, continuing to shift further and further to the left. And as you can see here, running kind of right through the center and making that turn maybe a little bit later than some of the other models. But the UK Met obviously has been kind of missing with some of the other runs that they've had. The Canadian model has also been drifting further and further to the left, trying to catch up with where everything else is. The models are really, really beginning to hone in on a spot that may be about 72, 73. And if we look at the H wharf itself, everything's been kind of drifting and staying a little bit to the left of track. But then recently we've been a little bit right of forecast, so that should level things out. And over the last couple runs, the H wharf has stabilized. And if we look at the forecast intensity, it is forecast to re-establish Category 4 and then kind of ebb and flow, weaken as it gets involved with some dry air and some shear, and then potentially like get its act together as far as spreading out and the intensity with a little bit of enhancement from the low pressure and some of the westerlies. Now, if we look at the H-bond has drifted a little bit further to the left, but makes the turn well in time before it gets any closer to the North Carolina Outer Banks there. But again, nothing is showing a direct impact, but there is going to be some massive amounts of coastal beach erosion, rip currents, surf, and potentially a little bit of squally weather and rain. I would imagine would also be an issue for folks there in Bermuda, depending on what this does. Halves A, it has pretty well stabilized, and it wants to potentially jump this back up to Category 5 status after the eye wall replacement cycle completes, and then start to run out and down. But this comes from the 12Z run. We'll have to wait and see, because Halves B went way out to the left and is now drifting back to the right and trending eastward with the last couple runs. And Halves B also wants to get this back to a Category 5 status after the eye wall replacement cycle completes, and then begin to weaken it as it starts to encounter a more hostile environment with the westerlies and the overall shear. Taking a look at let me check the comments here real quick. All right, but as long as we're still good on the audio, I'm trying to be cognizant of it. So, if we take a look, we've got our other wave as far as the euro is concerned. Here is 5 days out, and we see Erin exiting the scene. Some of the models could have Erin maybe lagging back behind just a little bit, maybe not exiting the scene as fast. And if that's the case, and Erin still remains present in parts of the Western Atlantic here, this wave that is currently coming, as you could see, there's a whole bunch of guidance that really has it kind of lifting up and following in the footsteps of Erin. So that's something that we'll have to watch. If we compare that with the Euro AI, you could see that we're looking at potential development here, 5 days on the ensembles, and then as we continue to run this forward, and getting it out towards day 10, it could very well follow in Erin's footsteps, because Erin is going to develop a massive winters, like a winter type storm up north, injecting tropical moisture with it as well. So it is very well to weaken this subtropical ridge, and this could very easily follow along in its path. But not everything is the Euro, and there are some ensemble models that are in a little bit of disagreement. One of them saying the GFS or the GEFS. Now, not all of them. The trends are still kind of, potentially getting it up there, and following Erin really doesn't have a lot of development, kind of keeps it weak and runs it over the islands with only just a couple of their members. But then if I push this into like day 12, it's a very, very small chance that something does emerge into the Gulf if people are going to start sharing those kind of models and stuff like that. Yes, Ferdinand. Yes, yes, it is, dear Ferdinand. Okay, moving on to the Google DeepMind. We are going to zoom in. I'm going to come out one more, and we're going to run this forward. And you will start to see that even the Google DeepMind and their ensembles potentially want to have that area of interest. And we've got it on day 5 right here, 120 hours. And if we run the ensemble tracks on that, that's where they're going. With the potential of development. Now, I am going to add in the rest of the ensemble products, and we'll hit it again. And as you can see, the majority of these products would like to generally agree that this would turn up and out. But there are a few out here that get a little bit further out to the left and everything, and these are the Euro and the Google DeepMind solutions. So right now it's hurricane season, folks. We expect that kind of stuff. So I mean, and if we look across the world, Erin is still really the only show in town right now. So it kind of is what it is, really. That's really all we can do, because right now, if I bring this up to the 500 millibar level, as you could see right here, that break is developing, and this storm is going to want to move in that general direction, but this is going to kind of erode out this way, and then this one is going to erode out this way, and you're going to get a even larger gap to develop. And I will show that by going forward on the GFS. As you can see, the one to the west goes down, and now as we continue to go forward at the 500 millibar level, it is starting to turn because it is encountering these westerly winds. This is 6 miles up. This is 3 miles up. Well, 3.5 miles up. It's these westerly winds and this low pressure that this is eventually going to, all these powers are going to combine as this is being drawn up. And now, well, it doesn't go out far enough, but all this starts to rotate around on one central point and tries to merge and phase into its own one combined entity. And as you could see, there is going to be an unbelievable amount of winds associated with the jet stream. This is going to be a very large accelerant to the jet streak. But if we continue to look here, the development of that will leave, depending on what this high right here does, as we could see, there could be just enough of a weakness develop as this continues to lift out to where whatever is down here will follow in that path. Now, if I come down to the 700 millibar level, you could see that kind of developing as well also. If it stays way to the south, it may have a chance to slip into the Caribbean. But if it does slip into the Caribbean, well, that becomes a little bit of a different story as well, because as you could see, the surface 100 or 1000 millibar, the 700, 500, the winds slow down. 250, the winds are a little bit hostile due to the fact that you have this upper level low that is going to be present. So, does it make it through? That remains to be seen. So, I wouldn't get too caught up on this wave out there just yet. We really need it to do its thing and to continue to evolve and go forward, because that's not the only thing that it's going to be dealing with. As you could see, that wave is also going to be encountering a great amount of Saharan air through the first 120 hours of its potential track across the Atlantic, the tropical Atlantic here, because that's a good amount of dust, folks. So that's going to be something that we're going to have to monitor and could be an inhibitor, but it could also inhibit it enough to where it doesn't allow it to get out and about and keeps it low and makes it a low rider. Okay, now if we run the deep layer wind shear, we've got the Euro on the left and the GFS on the right. As we can see, as this continues to pull northward, the wind field expands greatly with the wind shear, and then also becomes quite intense as it gets up here further and further into the northern Atlantic, and then finally decides to go visit our fine folks over there in the UK. But if we continue to run this operational models, these deterministic models forward, as you could see, there is another trough that is potentially forecasted. Now, the GFS wants to show a developed system and a developed hurricane coming through into the south on their deterministic run. But if you compare that to the Euro doesn't have the same thinking. So it really all depends upon where this wave decides to go. Right now, a lot of the guidance and even the GEFS's ensemble guidance also wants to kind of have things following potentially Erin here or going over the islands. As you can see, if it gets deep into the Caribbean, it doesn't really do much. It won't like that environment down there. Okay, our nightly checkup on the Madden-Julian Oscillation. We have crossed from phase 2. Now we are in phase 3 officially. And it is forecast to continue to move right along from west to east and continuing across the planet. And we'll be back around again here probably sometime middle September to probably the first week of October. Somewhere in that range, it'll probably come back around. Maybe, give or take. It could certainly take its time if it would like. I don't need it to get over here anytime soon, because we are in this region right here to where we still have all of this part of the hurricane season to go. And yeah, seeing the waves coming off of Africa, we're getting the outlooks on them now. We're definitely approaching peak season, no question about that. Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you. Oh, Fernando, I wouldn't know, guys. I don't know. I do slow jam R&B music. That's me. Oh well, it couldn't get stuck in my head, Sammy. I don't even think I know the name of the song. All right, a quick look out into the other portions of the tropical basins across the world. As we could see, we've got a pretty clear satellite here on the eastern Pacific and the central Pacific. No tropical cyclone activity expected. We jump out here to the Joint Typhoon Warning Center. Well, what we've had for the last couple days of no activity, now we've got quite a bit of activity. And there, the Joint Typhoon Warning Center only goes out 24 hours, but this has been named a tropical depression. Um, we can actually get that current storms. Where was it? I was playing around over here earlier today on Cyclonic WX. They've got a great site. And I needed a little bit more information than what I had. There we go. The monsoon depression. This is the one currently moving into across China, across portions of the island out here. I think it's Hainan Island. And then dumping a ton of rain into southern China and getting in and headed towards Vietnam there. As we can see with the sea surface temperatures, they are extraordinarily warm. So it could get a little bit more, but it's a monsoon trough. It's very large and broad. Right now, the center is over the island itself, so it's going to be, it may have a little bit of time once it gets out over there. And then Invest 92, they don't have this tagged yet, but as you can see with the satellite imagery, it does have a lot of strong shower and thunderstorms. Oh. Oh, what a terrible time to start sneezing. My apologies, folks. I just got ambushed by my nose. And Invest 90W that is not currently on the JTWC map, but but is definitely there. Yeah, I am being absolutely ambushed by my face right now. I do apologize, but our new Global Tropics Hazards Outlook will come out on this upcoming Tuesday, so be on, be on the lookout for it this upcoming Tuesday. Lord have mercy. I'm going to have to go blow my nose after this is all said and done with. Our points of tropical and subtropical cyclone origin for the Atlantic, as you could see, quite a bit for the 21st to the 31st, so it could go anywhere. But when we get into the September, it could go real, very, very, very widespread and develop just about anywhere. Oh, I gotta laugh at that one. Yep, I got to laugh at that one. 146,000 power outages. Thank you, James. Sammy, thank you. There's the trifecta. Yeah, the sneezes, when they come, they come. And again, we're monitoring things well behind the scenes. I'm watching it. Here is a wind analysis. This was from earlier. So I'm really, really watching the wind speed. So if you guys got anything on this, please feel free to reach out, ask. Like I said, I'm paying very close attention to this just due to the fact that it is anticipated to really, really, really expand its wind field, and at that point, the 10% percentile, maybe the tropical storm force winds, as you could see right here, just clipping the outer banks and the extreme eastern portions of North Carolina and potentially Bermuda simultaneously. Time will tell. We'll see. And I would be very interested to see if the storm itself is so large that we get watches on both locations simultaneously. And as you could see, the wind speeds there, it's possible, folks. So, all right, everybody, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off for tonight. We'll be back again tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. I am going to go blow my nose because it is trying to currently run off my face, and I do not want to go back into another sneezing fit, and I feel it. And so I'm just going to end the live now and go recover, and I'll talk to you all tomorrow night. We'll get into, and Erin will have made its northerly component turn at that point, and we'll see what the forecast is, and really, really take a very close look into the rip current feature and the swells that are coming. I'll make sure that I pull up all the European model data on that and everything. So, what do we got? Missed it. Visiting with guests. Oh, all right, Terry. Well, you didn't really miss too overly much, except for the expansive amount of wave and rough sea activity that is possible to occur. And then with our fellow follower Martha, who shared with us evacuation data and evacuation orders for Hatteras Island there in North Carolina due to its proximity to open waters and the waves. And this most recent satellite view, it might be trying to reestablish that eye wall and get and clear out that eye again. So we'll be watching it tonight. The sun has gone down on it, so if it's going to do it, now's the time that it's going to start to show its true colors. So, oh Lord, have a great evening, everybody, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow night.